He had actually the most peculiar methodologies of anybody I've ever worked with. He was not by any means a trained musician, but he was a genius at organizing sound, and he did it in the mode of a sculptor, which is what he was originally since he was a boy. And 3 different methods that he would use to teach parts to the band for all of these fantastic compositions were either he would scat sing the parts, and or make sounds that you had to imitate. I mean, even sometimes it'd be very difficult. He'd say, "Okay, Gary, listen, play this on the guitar," and then he'd go, "Ow, ow, 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 ow." And I didn't hear a lot of musical notes in there, but, we'd have to follow him around with little tape recorders. Actually, he made everybody in the band get these Sony cassette recorders. It was this particular kind, and I'd take, these tapes and study them and try and translate what I heard him say, and then he'd further modify it in rehearsals, like either that's it, that's what I wanted, or no, you got it all wrong. So it was he was a fiendish taskmaster in that way. Another methodology was he'd whistle parts. He was a great whistler when he wanted to. You can hear a little bit on the song Harry Irene. He whistles at the end of it. Well, sometimes he'd call you. Like, I got a call once after midnight. He woke me up, and he said, "Hey man, I got a song. Get your tape recorder." Okay, now get this. And then he'd go. There's not a lot of melody or notes even to hang on to in there. It sounds like you're just pushing air through your lips. Say, "Yeah, that's right, man. That's a thing called melody arms, man." And they had the best titles, man. I said, "Well, what's that about?" And he said, "It's about a hotel, the Melody Arms. And every verse would be a different story about a different person living in the hotel." They were just fantastic songs. Some of these got realized, some of them didn't. But it was inspirational to me as a young person. Okay, the other methodology used to teach his music was he'd either sit on a piano, right, and through compose a piece. And by that I mean, because he was not really a trained pianist, he was able to, he'd turn the tape recorder on and he'd begin a piece and he'd improvise. He would tell you it was an improvisation, no matter, you could call it he was composing at that moment. And whether or not there were any mistakes or not, he would tell you there were no mistakes, Whatever he derived from this recording, when he switched off the tape, that was what you had to learn. Exactly that. With every hiccup, tick of his nervous system intact. Mistake, he would say there were no mistakes, So therefore, to translate something such as a piano composition through compose like that onto the guitar, you would really arrive at very unidiomatic guitar music, which is why that accounts for the flavor of a lot of his music. And he once said to me, "Guitar is merely a stand-up piano." So he was thinking piano when he wrote these things. Now, he was also lucky in having very, very, very gifted musicians. I mentioned them all as we saw the clips. There were others who came up through the ranks, and I have to salute them, because to serve under to serve, how do they say, 2 years against the mast, to serve under the stewardship of Don Van Vliet, right, on the good ship Beefheart, was, not often smooth sailing, let's put it that way. I don't want to disparage the guy in any way, and many stories have circulated subsequently about his famously bad behavior here and there, and mistreatment of musicians. But I want to say most people who stuck it out did it out of love, and also because they knew what was being achieved was of historical importance, world historical importance. I knew it when I signed on. That's why I wanted to get involved. I thought this is the coolest, musician going, and the art that we're going to make is going to really have a lasting impact on the culture, in which it has. Although, it's one reason I do these symposiums, to remind people, because people have short attention spans in the world, and young people coming up may not automatically know about Captain Beefheart or be exposed to the music. There's such a plethora of crap out there with mediocre music that's being released by the minute as we speak here. Just thousands of people booting it up on the internet, and well, anyway, I could go off on that for a while, but just bringing it back home here. That was one reason why, you know, we all were there, and without the dedication of these people, really, a lot of this music would just never have seen the light of day. He was a very difficult and, you know, demanding taskmaster, and you had to play this music absolutely the way he told you to play it, or you were out. If you wanted to improvise, there was occasions where a few players were allowed to improvise, such as Elliot Ingber, Ringadale Fingerling. They were given guitar solos, and anyway. Generally speaking, no. It had to be approached like modern classical music. You couldn't even use music, I mean, written out music of your parts on stage. You discouraged it, though it was occasionally done. You had to really memorize all of these difficult changes. And one of the reasons that accounts for the peculiar sound of the music is that because it was the band en masse, you know, it was like 4 or 5 people imitating sort of the nervous system and the breathing apparatus of one guy, Don Van Vliet. You know, if he's playing on the piano all of these notes, you know, sometimes the parts were divided up so that the left hand was being played by one guitar and the right hand by another guitar, and a bit, you know. But this was also largely, the arrangements were ultimately Don's, but people like John French and Zihorn Rollo, Bill Harper, myself, and the people in my band put in a lot of time to codify the stuff. So anyway, but that is not to take away at all from Don, because Don was the prime mover of it and the progenitor of all of this music. And the proof of the pudding is in many people have done, you know, fair versions of Beefheart sounding music over the years. I don't have to name any names. Many of the new wave and punk bands all cited Don. I mean, from people like John Lydon to Joe Strummer to David Byrne, you know, the Perubu guy, as a big influence on their music. And we call him the godfather of punk, actually, one of the big ones. But, you know, he never really got his due out there in the world, which is a shame, despite repeated attempts to, you know, write about him and publicize his music. The commercial thing, or with attracting a large audience, eluded him, and actually discouraged him after a while to do it anymore. I know that when I was still working with him at the end, and Warner Brothers came and said, we want to put out a compilation. He said, only if you call it Stand Up to Be Discontinued. Which was a good commentary on the music biz. And his career at Warner Brothers, but because he'd been dropped twice, actually, by them. His other complaint was, didn't I put enough music out, man? Why do they want to put it out again? You know, so I thought it was humorous, but anyway, I'm going to play a couple of Beefheart pieces for you.